Welcome to the Finance Marketing Podcast, a show that empowers finance professionals to market their businesses in ways that feel good and actually achieve results. I'm your host, Hillary. I've been working with folks in financial services to develop marketing strategies that work and create results-oriented marketing content since 2020. And I've learned a lot about what works in finance marketing, what doesn't work, and where financial services pros get stuck. Join us each Friday as we explore real, effective ways to market your finance business and connect with folks who truly embody your ideal clients. In today's episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast, I'm excited to welcome Clare Dubé, a financial therapist certified in financial social work and co-founder of the Financial Social Work Collaborative. Now, this collaborative is a unique community that offers education, networking, and support for financial social workers. Claire and I dive into some really interesting topics today, starting with what financial social work really is and what it's all about. And in case you aren't familiar yet, we talk specifically about how it focuses on emotions and behaviors surrounding money rather than just goal setting and the numbers. Now, Claire also shares some of the different ways that financial social workers can collaborate with other financial professionals like financial advisors, and we're exploring some marketing insights that she has used for her business, specifically how leveraging other people's platforms like podcasts or guesting on podcasts can be a really game-changing strategy to grow your brand. So this episode is really great for anyone who wants to take advantage of other people's audiences and platforms rather than spending all of their time creating their own content as a way to market themselves and grow their businesses. So without further ado, let's dive in. All right, Claire, thank you so much for joining me this morning on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. How are you?
I'm doing great, Hillary, and I really appreciate you having this conversation with me, and anything that I could do to talk money. It's my favorite subject.
Mine too. So yes, I'm really looking forward to it. You are the first financial social worker that I have ever had on the podcast. And so I'm excited to hear more. Yes, yay. So I'm excited to hear more about what financial social work is. Could we start by having you just tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is you do and how you help people talk about money?
Sure. So, Clare Dubé, and I am certified in financial social work. I'm a financial therapist, but truly I'm retired in a sense. So I'm doing more consulting work and looking to see about getting financial social work out there a little bit more known. It's been around for 25 years plus. So it's kind of that hidden gem that I'm hoping to spread along with my partners of the Financial Social Work Collaborative.
I love this. So tell me about financial social work and what financial social workers really do.
So, it's financial social work is kind of like saying a doctor in a sense that there are general practice and then there are those that are niches. So you have specialists. And financial social work is very much the same way. So the basis of it is really about behaviors, emotions, and less about the spreadsheets when it comes to financial social work. And in this case, there are lots that work with seniors, helping pay bills. There are those that work in the medical field. There are those that work with money trauma. There are a lot that work with money trauma. So it really has a lot of niches in it. But the basis of it all is money is really more emotions and behaviors.
And how do you become a licensed financial social worker? Is this something that you can get a degree in, or is this an extra certification after you've gotten your social work degree? I'm just very curious.
Yeah. So it isn't a licensing; it's a certification. So like many licensed social workers are coming in for the certification, and it's actually done through an entity called the Center for Financial Social Work, and Rita Wolfson, who is actually the founder of financial social work. So there is a certifying body. It's an accredited certification. The collaborative, which I am co-founder with three of my partners, we then work with those that have become certified and really a hub for them and helping them with starting up their businesses or, if they have a case that they're working on and they just need to talk it out with somebody. So we're kind of that hub for certified financial social workers.
So I'm so sorry. It's the collaborative for financial
Mhm.
social work. So, the collaborative, is that what you do in a lot of your consulting now? Is you help other financial social workers and connect with them, and what do you do with other financial social workers?
Yeah, so that's 100% what I'm doing right now. So we do things where we may have referrals for them. There could be where we know of some job openings and those that are looking for a position, so we can broker those. We do networking. We're really I mean, the best way to describe it is a hub. So great resource for certified financial social workers.
How excellent. Do you do any collaborations with, financial advisors or other service providers in the financial services industry? Because I've been having a lot of conversations with people lately from the accredited financial counseling world,
Mhm.
and they've been talking about, this is how we're kind of partnering with financial advisors. Is there any overlap there that you see, or does it still seem to be kind of two separate ways into talking about finances?
So the best way that I would put it is, a circle pie, you know, uh,
Mm.
and you have CPAs, CFPs, you have estate attorneys, financial social workers, financial therapists, and financial coaches. I mean, there are so many different financial professionals, and you can have the same client and each of you working with them because of the scope of work and the skill set that goes along with it. So
Right.
I find it really complementary with other financial professionals, not competitive. I really think that it's a great way to work together.
I love that. That's exactly how I see marketing. I always have other marketers on here who I love to collaborate with. And like you said, it's not competitive. It's truly just we can all serve the same clients because the scope of what they need can be so vast and
Right,
broad.
right.
Right. Um, well, I would love to transition a little bit. I know that you have a lot of experience kind of marketing yourself and the collaborative, I'm assuming, by leveraging other people's platforms and appearing on other people's podcasts and things like that. And I think that you have a lot of insight to share about how to truly maximize those opportunities. So let's start from the beginning. Can we talk about kind of, why that's such a powerful marketing strategy?
Well, I will say it's a powerful marketing strategy if you follow through. Uh,
Mm,
so leveraging others' platforms, just being on, say, for example, today, the podcast, if it doesn't go any further than this conversation that we have, then you really haven't leveraged it.
mhm.
So this is a perfect example for me to take back to the membership on talking about here's some marketing tips that you can do. You can leverage others, and we can use this as a teaching tool. So not only is it your audience, but it also maximizes my audience and so on. So it's kind of that ripple effect.
Mm,
And you always hear the money's in the follow through, and that really is it. When I talk about leveraging others, is follow through with other ways to use the content, sharing it. You're gracious enough to have me on here, so I want to be able to use this and spread the word on social media so that new members can see the work that you're doing as well. I mean, that's what it is. It's, a give and take in that sense. The other thing I like about it is you're setting up the studio. You're doing all the work behind the scenes. I
yes.
get to just show up and turn my camera on. So you're putting butts in the seats, and I'm just, get to show up. So that's to me is smart leveraging.
That's so true. Can you tell me a little bit more about let's say you show up on somebody's podcast like this one. And then you mentioned, sharing it afterwards, not just, either hoping that the podcast host like me will share it with my audience, which of course I will. But you also sharing it. Where exactly are you sharing it?
So obviously, it would be my social media. It
Hmm.
would be the collaborative social media. It would be with our members in itself, as I said, like a teaching tool.
Hmm.
And the thing that this particular, I'm going to use this one as a great example, but is aligning yourself with a collaborative platform so that it's not just joining any platform, not just joining any podcast,
Hmm.
but make sure that there is an alignment.
Hmm.
And we talked about the fact that when you're doing your marketing content and strategy, it's all about building relationships. And financial social work, that too is the same thing. It's about building the relationships, whether it's relationships in families around their money,
Mhm.
couples, or just individuals themselves. So it's important to align it so that it really can be maximized.
Right. Have you ever said no to being on a podcast because you knew it wasn't aligned?
Exactly. Yes. And that's why I state that it isn't, I mean, otherwise you're just not doing anybody any justice, not the person that's putting together. I mean, the work that goes behind doing the podcast, everything that's there, you don't want to waste somebody else's time either.
Mhm. I can say as a podcast host, and this has only happened to me one time, and it's not from this podcast, it's from another podcast that I co host with a business partner of mine. The worst thing in the world is when you do a recording with someone and then you realize that it's not actually going to serve your audience to post that episode. And you have to tell that person, I'm so sorry. Thank you for your time. But unfortunately, we can't air your episode. That is the worst possible thing that can happen, right?
Right.
So, do you have any, I don't know, tips or insights to share around how you weigh whether or not a podcast is going to be a good fit for you?
So I think it has to do with the circles that you're in.
Mhm.
So, if I'm just going to throw some names out, so the females in finance group that in, and making those connections through there, or on Facebook, financial coaching platforms or pages and groups. When you align yourself with things that are going to be in your wheelhouse,
Mhm.
things pop up. And I think that's where it is. It's building relationships in those circles.
Yes, absolutely. Now, another part of this conversation, when you're wanting to leverage other people's platforms, and that's a big, part of your marketing strategy, do you have any tips to share around how you can pitch yourself as a great guest to be on other people's podcasts and how you can make yourself kind of an attractive guest to come on?
So, if you've got permission from using the different podcasts that you've been on or webinars, and you have permission to take some screenshots, and I'd
Mm,
say put a reel together of different things that you've done,
mm,
and put it in your email link, tagline, whatever it is, so
mm,
that people might just click on it. And when you see something that aligns, or say, hey, this might be a topic I can talk on, you have that reel to do it. People still use one sheets, and I don't think that that's a bad idea, but I think video also ends up being something that's great to provide.
I love that. I've actually never heard or thought of that before about kind of, clipping together some of your different appearances and using that as kind of your proof that yes, I have experience with this. I'm a great guest. All of those things. How do you typically find, the podcasts that you want to appear on?
So I look at other podcasts that people have been on, and
Mm,
do some kind of alignment with that. As you said, you haven't had some financial social work before. So having different financial professionals, or those that serve financial professionals. So if you look at other podcasts, first of all, you gain information just on whatever they're sharing to begin with.
Yep.
And then two, you can see if it's something that's a good fit for you, or even if it's not a good fit for you, you can pass it along to somebody else that said, hey, I was listening to this podcast. I think you'd be great for it.
Mm-hmm. You know what? One of my favorite things about having kind of this interview based podcast is it has taken and I really hate to use the word networking. I like to think of networking more as like making friends, because I really see it as something, it's not just me trying to get whatever I can out of the people I'm meeting with. I want it to be mutually beneficial. Um, but I have been introduced to so many more people, but just by having guests on the podcast and talking about who they know and things like that. And it's just really, I again, it's taken my networking game to the next level. Has that been true for you as well?
Yeah, and I like that when you talk about it's relationships that are building, and you touched upon it. It's conversations, and
Mhm.
that's what it is. It's just sitting and having a conversation and sharing information, and I think that's what's great. It doesn't have to be so formal. You can just have a dialogue with somebody and pick up all kinds of tips.
Right.
Absolutely. I even feel, I'm in marketing, and whenever I have other marketers on the podcast, I get to learn so much as well. It's just such a mutually beneficial way to exchange information and learn from each other. So, besides podcasting, is there anything else that you do to show up on other people's platforms, or is it mostly podcasts?
And webinars and summits. I think
Mm.
those are other things. And you do have to weigh certain things, if it's not a paying gig, something that you're doing. But count that as kind of your marketing dollars. So even if
Right.
it's not something that's a paid event that you're doing, look at what the reach is going to be, who else is on it. And again, the time that your platform is putting into all the background and marketing the podcast and such, that's a huge value. It's a
Mm.
huge value, and it's money not out of your pocket. So that, to me, makes a smart money move.
I love that. Can you share some examples of webinars or summits that you've been on recently?
Yeah, so definitely look at different industries.
Mm.
So certain things that there could be financial coaching summit. There could be something for elder law. Um,
Mm.
Talking for if you go in and talk to certified financial professionals about the human side of money.
Mhm.
So there are different things that you can do to leverage. And I'm not saying that everything needs to be done on a free basis. I'm just saying look at the time invested in it, that you can just show up and have a conversation and what value that brings to
Right.
everybody, actually.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm curious to hear. I mean, it doesn't matter either way. Have you done any in-person speaking? Do you see that
Yes.
as being kind of a part of this as well?
Oh, honestly, that's my favorite because you get
Oh,
to interact with people. You get to, really have dialogue. You can make things interactive and play off of each other. And quite frankly, I think that you learn so much when it's a Q&A.
mm,
Because if somebody's asking a question, there's probably 10 more people that want to ask that question. And
mhm.
now you really get to know what people are looking for. So I love the in person.
Absolutely. And the Q&As, I mean, what great market research, right? To hear like what your audience is really curious about, and then how can you create content based off of those Q&As. I really love that
You
approach.
bring up a great point there, because even when it's something that's virtual,
Mhm.
if there's a chat and a Q&A, all of that is great information that you get to keep because it's printed out. So you do bring up a good point about market research as well.
Yeah, just the chance to learn about your audience is so, so great. Um, Now, one thing that you had also mentioned prior to hitting the record button, or maybe it's something that we exchanged in a LinkedIn message, was when you show up on other people's platforms, have a really enticing way for people to get in contact with you if they want to learn more about you. And of course, in my show notes, I'll link to wherever you want that to be. But you mentioned something that I think people overlook sometimes. Sometimes bring a lead magnet with you, right? Have a way for the people who want to get in contact with you to maybe end up in your email list or something like that. Is that something that you do?
I have to, not through the collaborative in a sense, because that's real specialized in
Mhm.
the membership.
Mhm.
But I think that's a great point, is to have something, whether it's an exercise that somebody can do, whether it's a piece of information that might help them, in my case, with their finances,
Yep.
or maybe even something on helping with money conflict. So actually having something that you can drop in and share with the audience is a great idea.
Yeah, because you give them a gift, right? It's some valuable piece of content they might want. And then you also get to bring them into your audience as well, and kind of benefit that way. So I was really glad to see you bring that up. I think it's something that a lot of people forget is an option, right? They're always like, well, I'll share my website, my LinkedIn profile, whatever. But if you have a lead magnet already and you can also link to that in someone else's show notes,
Right.
amazing.
Everybody likes to get something.
Everybody loves to get something. Well, Claire, is there anything I haven't asked you yet that we haven't covered in our conversation that is either pertinent to financial social work that you want to make sure you talk about, or pertinent to this marketing strategy that we've talked about? Of
I will talk about the marketing strategy just a little bit. We did talk about money in the follow up. One of the other things is when somebody reaches out to you, ask how they heard about you. Get that information, because then you can track, you know, okay, I was on this podcast, they heard this, and then you can start to see your ROI and, return on investment and what times you're doing it. So there are a bunch of steps to take. It's not just showing up, but really making sure that you follow up
Mm-hmm.
and track.
Yep. I think that's so, so important too. It's another one of those really overlooked things. And too, I have noticed, I've been on podcasts before where I've been invited back to talk about another topic. I have plenty of people that I've interviewed that I would like to invite back. I'm only 4 months into this podcast, maybe 5 months, so I haven't gotten there yet. But if you can see, 5 people came to me from this one podcast, that's an indication I might want to be on that podcast again, right? That was worth my time. So that's such a great tip. Thank you so much for sharing that. So Claire, final question, where can people find you if they want to learn more about you?
So if you want to learn about me directly, my website is claredubé.com. And if you want to learn more about financial social work, I would say reach out to the FSW collaborative.com and learn more about financial social work.
Great. Well, I'll link to both those websites in the show notes. And I just want to say thank you so much. This was such a valuable conversation. Lots of hot tips that you shared. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Hillary. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. If you're eager to market your business in a way that feels good and actually gets results, sign up for the Finance Marketing Podcast newsletter in the show notes so you never miss another episode. If you liked what you heard today, please be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening app and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you back here next Friday.